Picture this. You're 18 years old. You've got maybe a couple $100 saved up, no real bills to speak of, and honestly, the biggest financial decision you've made this week is whether to get the meal deal or just a burger. Life is simple. Life is kind of beautiful, actually. Now fast forward. You're 30. You've got a decent job, a salary that your 18-year-old self would have considered rich, and yet you feel broke. Like, not broke. You're not eating cereal for dinner or anything, but you're not building anything either. The money comes in, it goes out, and somehow at the end of every month, you're looking at your bank account like it personally offended you. And here's the weird, slightly uncomfortable part. There are 18-year-olds out there right now, kids who haven't even finished figuring out how to do laundry properly, who are quietly building more wealth than a lot of adults in their 30s. And it has almost nothing to do with how much money they make. That's the thing people get completely wrong about this. My name is Adam, and I'll be honest with you, I spend probably way too much time thinking about money, about why some people build it and why others don't, and about all the invisible patterns that shape our financial lives without us ever noticing. Like, this is legitimately what keeps me up at night sometimes. My friend Lewis thinks I have a problem. He's probably right. But here's what I want you to take away from this video. It's not a lecture, it's not a "you've been doing everything wrong" kind of talk. It's more like a mirror. Because once you understand why young people sometimes have a financial edge over older adults, you start to see that most of it isn't about age at all. It's about psychology, about habits, about the mental weight we accumulate over time. And the beautiful thing? That weight can be put down at any age. So let's get into it. The 18-year-old has nothing to protect, and that's a superpower. Here's something nobody talks about enough. When you're 18 and broke, you're not scared of losing money because you don't really have any. And that sounds like a disadvantage, right? But psychologically, it's actually one of the most powerful positions you can be in. There's a concept in behavioral economics called loss aversion. The basic idea is that humans feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. So losing $100 hurts about twice as much as winning $100 feels good. Which means the richer you get, the more your brain starts pulling you away from risk and toward protection. Think about that for a second. The richer you get, the more psychologically wired you become to avoid losing rather than to keep gaining. You start making decisions based on fear of loss rather than opportunity for gain. An 18-year-old investing their first $100 isn't scared of anything. They throw it into an index fund or a stock they read about or a small business idea, and they just see what happens. They don't lie awake at night catastrophizing. They don't have a lifestyle to protect, a mortgage to worry about, a family depending on them. Their nervous system isn't wired for financial self-protection yet. And that looseness, that willingness to just try stuff, is how wealth actually gets built, not through caution, through calculated, slightly reckless experimentation. Lewis, my mate, he started a little online reselling thing when he was 19. Bought cheap stuff at car boot sales, sold them on eBay, made mistakes constantly, lost money a few times. But he also made money he never expected. He wasn't following a strategy, he was just playing. And just playing is honestly one of the most underrated forms of financial education that exists. The takeaway here is simple. If you're 30 or 35 or older and you've been avoiding financial risk because you have something to lose, that instinct, while understandable, might be the very thing keeping you from building real wealth. The goal isn't to be reckless. The goal is to remember that calculated risk is the engine of growth, and playing it completely safe is its own kind of loss. All right, let's talk about lifestyle inflation, because this one genuinely sneaks up on almost everyone. When you're 18 and you get your first job, let's say you're earning, $1,000 a month. You feel rich. You're eating out once a week like it's a special occasion. You're excited to buy new trainers, and you're somehow still managing to save a bit on the side because your expenses are just low. You haven't upgraded your lifestyle to match your income yet. Now you're 30, you're earning 4 times that, maybe 5 times, and somehow you're saving less as a percentage of your income than you were at 18. Maybe you're saving less in absolute terms too. How does that happen? It happens because every time your income went up, every raise, every promotion, every side income, your lifestyle quietly inflated to absorb it. Better flat,
better car, nicer restaurants, more subscriptions, better holidays. And none of it individually seems extravagant. That's the trap. It's death by 1,000 upgrades. There's a phrase for this: lifestyle creep. And it is creep, genuinely. It moves so slowly you don't notice it until you're knee-deep in it and wondering why a six-figure salary somehow still feels tight. An 18-year-old doesn't have any of that yet. They're still operating on a low-expense baseline. And if they're smart, or just get lucky enough to stumble across the right information early, they can keep that baseline low even as their income grows. That gap between income and expenses, that's where wealth is built. Full stop. There's no secret formula. Wealth is just that gap, consistently maintained over time, invested intelligently. The older we get, the harder it becomes to close that gap back up, because it's not just about money anymore. It's about identity. Downgrading your lifestyle feels like failure. It feels like going backward, even if rationally you know it would be the smartest financial move you can make. Here's what I'd suggest. Don't think of it as downgrading. Think of it as redesigning. Some of the upgrades in your life are genuinely adding value. Good food with people you love, experiences that build memories, but a lot of them are just noise. Subscriptions you forgot you had, habits that are expensive but not meaningful, a car that's slightly nicer than it needs to be. Audit those. Be honest. Not harsh, just honest. Time is the variable that actually matters. Okay, this one is going to sound obvious, but I genuinely don't think most people feel it in their bones the way they need to. Compound interest is not a trick. It's not a buzzword. It is, as someone once called it, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't want to get too formal here, genuinely one of the most powerful forces in the universe when applied to money over time. Here's a simple example. Let's say an 18-year-old invests just $200 a month, starting today. They do that consistently, get an average return of around 8% per year, which is roughly what broad market index funds have historically returned, and they just leave it alone. By the time they're 65, that $200 a month turns into somewhere around $1 million, maybe more. Now, let's say someone waits until they're 30 to start doing the exact same thing. Same $200 a month, same 8% return. By 65, they end up with roughly $400,000, less than half. Same monthly contribution, same investment strategy. The only difference? 12 years. That 12-year gap cost them over $600,000. Not because they made bad decisions, just because they waited. And I know what you're thinking. Adam, I'm already past 18. What's the point of telling me this? But here's the thing. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Every year you delay is another compounding cycle you give up. So the question isn't, why didn't I start sooner? The question is, what's stopping me from starting right now, today, with whatever I have? Even $50 a month is something. Even $20. The habit is more important than the amount in the beginning. The discipline of setting money aside, watching it sit and grow, and not touching it, that skill is worth more than you think.
18-year-olds are still learning, and learning is leverage. Here's something I find really interesting. When you're young and you make a financial mistake, it costs you almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. You lose $100 on a bad investment, or you get burned on a dodgy business idea. And yeah, it stings, but you recover fast. Your financial foundation is small, so even a big mistake as a percentage is small in absolute terms. But more importantly, you learn. You build financial intuition. You start to understand at a gut level how money moves, what works, what doesn't. And that's not something you can get from a book. You have to earn it through experience. By the time you're 30, if you haven't been doing this since you were young, you're essentially a financial beginner with adult-sized stakes. The same $100 lesson that cost an 18-year-old nothing might now cost you $10,000 because you're playing with bigger numbers and bigger consequences. And here's the subtle, almost cruel irony. Older adults tend to be more conservative precisely when they need to be learning the most, because the stakes feel higher, because failure feels more shameful, because you're supposed to know better by now. That's a mindset trap. Nobody is born knowing how to build wealth. It's all learned. And the willingness to be a beginner at any age is, I'd argue, one of the most valuable financial traits you can develop. Lewis, bless him, is one of those guys who's genuinely not embarrassed to say he doesn't know something.
He'll ask the most basic questions about investing, about taxes, about whatever. Stuff that other guys our age would be too proud to ask. And honestly, he's learned more in the past 3 years than most people learn in a decade because he's still in learning mode. He never turned that off. Don't turn it off. That's the advice. Stay curious. Stay willing to make small, cheap mistakes. Stay in the game long enough to get good at it. The 18-year-old doesn't have a fixed identity around money yet. This one's a bit deeper. Bear with me. By the time you're 30, most people have a pretty fixed story about themselves and money. I'm not a money person. I've never been good at saving. I'm more of a spender. Rich people are just lucky. I grew up poor. Money was always hard. These stories feel like facts. They feel like descriptions of reality, but they're not. They're identities. They're things you've decided are true about you, probably based on patterns and experiences from your past, and now they're running your financial life on autopilot. An 18-year-old hasn't locked that in yet. Their financial identity is still malleable. They can pick up a book, watch a video, maybe a video like this one, who knows, and genuinely absorb it into their self-concept. I'm someone who invests. I'm someone who lives below my means. I'm building towards something. Those identities are available to them because they haven't already decided there's something else. But here's the thing, and this is what I really want you to hear. That malleability never fully disappears. It just gets harder to access because you have to be willing to look at your existing story and say, wait, is this actually true? Or did I just decide this somewhere along the way? Genuinely, one of the most powerful financial moves a person over 30 can make is a full identity audit. Not of their spending habits, not of their portfolio, of their story. What do you believe about yourself and money? Where did that belief come from? Is it serving you? Because if you walk around believing that wealth building isn't for people like you, then no investment strategy in the world is going to stick. 18-year-olds are willing to be embarrassed for the sake of progress. Okay, this one's a bit funny, but it's real. When you're 18, you're already embarrassed basically all the time. You're figuring out life in public. You say the wrong thing, you make social mistakes, you wear something weird, and you just move on. Because at 18, the social stakes don't feel permanent. That low embarrassment threshold, it's weirdly useful financially. An 18-year-old will walk into a bank and ask a dumb question. They'll admit they don't know what a compound interest rate means. They'll start a clunky amateur YouTube channel about finance, badly, and keep going anyway because they're not too proud to be bad at something in public. Adults, meanwhile, carry this invisible tax, this fear of looking naive or unsophisticated or like they should know better. It stops people from asking for help. It stops people from admitting gaps in their knowledge. It stops people from starting things that look messy before they look polished. If you've been putting off starting an investment account because you're not sure you fully understand it yet, just start. You don't need to understand everything. Open the account. Put something small in. Let the confusion be okay. You'll figure it out as you go, just like everyone else does. The one edge 30-year-olds actually have, and most of them waste it. Right, so I've been fairly tough on the 30-year-old in this video, and I want to balance that out. Because here's the truth. A 30-year-old or 35-year-old or 40-year-old who actually decides to start building wealth has one enormous advantage over any 18-year-old. They earn significantly more money. That's it. That's the edge. And it's a real one. An 18-year-old investing $200 a month is making a powerful move, but a 30-year-old who restructures their lifestyle, cuts the noise, and invests $1,000 a month, or $2,000, can close a lot of that time gap through sheer volume. Compound interest rewards time, but it also rewards amount, and the amount available to a mid-career adult is genuinely not available to an 18-year-old scraping together pocket money. The problem is that most adults in this position are spending that income advantage instead of investing it. They've inflated their lifestyle to consume every extra dollar before it can go anywhere useful. So the edge exists, it's just being squandered. If you're 30 and reading this, here's the practical move. Don't compare yourself to an 18-year-old who started younger. That's a waste of mental energy. Instead, look at your current income versus your current expenses and ask yourself, is the gap between these two numbers as wide as it could be? And is that gap going somewhere with intention? Because you have the income. The question is whether you're directing it or just watching it disappear. Information has never been more available, but attention is still the currency. Last point before we wrap up, and this one matters a lot right now. We are living through the most information-rich financial moment in human history, for free, on your phone, right now. You can learn more about index investing, tax-advantaged accounts, real estate, business building, and personal finance in one afternoon of YouTube than most people knew even 15 years ago. An 18-year-old growing up today has access to this from the jump. It's just part of the environment. They're watching videos, consuming podcasts, reading threads, and it's reshaping how an entire generation thinks about money before they've even developed bad habits. But here's the thing that hasn't changed with all this information availability. Attention is still the bottleneck. You can have access to the best financial education in the world, and if you're not paying attention, if you're consuming without applying, scrolling without deciding, learning without acting, none of it moves the needle. The 18-year-old who acts on one piece of financial advice will outperform the 35-year-old who watches 100 videos and doesn't change a thing. Information is not transformation. Action is transformation. The real edge was never about age. So let's zoom out. Why do 18-year-olds sometimes build wealth faster than 30-year-olds? Is it really about being young? Not exactly. It's about being unburdened. Unburdened by loss aversion, by lifestyle inflation, by fixed identity, by embarrassment, by the weight of accumulated financial regret. Those things are real. They matter. But here's what I want you to hold on to as you walk away from this video. None of them are permanent. Loss aversion can be consciously overridden. Lifestyle can be redesigned. Identity stories can be rewritten. Embarrassment fades the moment you take action anyway. The true edge the young have is mostly just the absence of constraints they've never had to face yet. And you, wherever you are right now, at whatever age, can consciously let go of those constraints too. Not all of them, not overnight, but one by one, with intention. Start with the first one that resonated today. Maybe it's the lifestyle audit. Maybe it's opening that investment account you've been thinking about. Maybe it's just telling yourself a different story. I am the kind of person who builds wealth slowly and steadily, starting today. The best time to start was the day you were born. The second best time is right now. And you're watching this video, which means you're already paying attention. Which means you're already closer than you think.